Hello fellow orchid lovers, it's Danielle here with a quick video about how my Phalaenopsis spikes are progressing, and also just some quick tips on what to look out for when you are rescuing a Phalaenopsis. So a lot of us have purchased Phalaenopsis from our local grocery stores, superstores, etc. We fall in love with the blooms, we bring them home, and then they take a crash landing for Earth. And sometimes we lose them. They don't make it. This has happened to me more often than not. I do find that when you buy from a supermarket or a big box store, they're not in good shape, and you're basically bringing home a rescue mission. And so I have rescued quite a few Phalaenopsis at this point. So there's a few things that I've learned in that process that I'd like to share with you. So the first thing is, don't panic. A lot of orchids that you rescue from the supermarket are going to reach this stage at some point. You can see that the leaves are completely desiccated and limp, completely dehydrated, not in a good way. Plant's not doing good, lost all of its roots. And at this point, many of you might decide, okay, this plant's had it, I'm throwing it out. But wait, this actually is, to me, a sign that the plant is bouncing back, and I'll tell you why. So when a plant, especially, we're focusing on Phalaenopsis in this video. When a Phalaenopsis plant loses all of its roots, it needs to get its energy from somewhere to be able to send roots back out to save itself. And the only source that it can usually get that from is the leaves. Typically, a Phalaenopsis that is in distress will start to pull energy from its leaves. If these leaves were turning yellow and falling off, then you might have a different situation. But as long as the leaves stay green while they're dehydrating, it's a sign that the orchid is pulling resources from those leaves to put out new roots. Now, I don't have scientific evidence like case studies and, all this kind of stuff to show you. I just have my experience. In my experience, when the orchid does this, it's actually a good sign. And I know a lot of people, when they see this, they're like, oh, this orchid's done, and they throw it out. But this is actually the orchid saying, okay, I'm going to save myself. So, give it a little more time. As long as the leaves are staying green, even if they're desiccating like this, it's because the orchid's pulling her energy together to push out those new roots that are going to save the plant. And I have several orchids where this has proved to be true. This particular orchid, the same thing happened. Her leaves, these leaves, the older leaves just went limp like this. She had no roots. And then after her leaves went limp, you see those new green roots? She started putting out those roots. So she gathered her resources from her leaves. I don't want to hurt her. Sorry. She gathered her resources from her leaves, put out new roots, and then once the roots were established, she started to grow again. The same thing with this one. This is one of her original leaves. This leaf went completely limp. As you can see, her structures are small. She's got quite a ways to go before she's going to be in what we would term good shape, but she saved herself. She took her energy from her leaf, which, they never really look great after they go through something like that, but it's firm again. And she put out her roots, and now she's recovering. Same thing with this one. This one did the same thing. This leaf never really regenerated completely. It's still a little sad, but it's green. There's nutrients in there, so I'm leaving it alone. She needs everything she can get, but this leaf went completely limp, and she looked like a goner, and then she put out new roots. So when your plant does this, just give it a little more time. Don't think that it's a goner. Again, if these are turning yellow and falling and desiccating like this and dehydrating, then that's a different story. There may be something wrong with the stem. But as long as the leaves are staying green, she's trying. So give her a little more time to put in some effort. Another good example is this particular orchid. This is one of my oldest orchids. She was a gorgeous, gorgeous plant when I got her. Probably my favorite flowers of any Phalaenopsis that I have. And she hasn't bloomed in 3 years because she almost died. She was in a really sad state. As you can see, she's much better. She's got tons and tons of roots. She's doing great. And looky here, she's gonna bloom for me. So if you're patient and don't freak out when the plant does this, there is a very good chance that she is going to pop out new roots. And another thing that you want to keep in mind is if you improve light levels for a plant, like if you put this in slightly brighter light, you know, not direct sunlight, but slightly brighter light, it's going to encourage those roots even more. It's going to give her even more of what she needs. And then also to keep in mind that if she's very weak, it may be difficult for her to push roots out from the leaves. So a lot of times an orchid will push roots out, let me see if I can show you, through a leaf like this. I'm sure you've noticed it and you've seen it. But if an orchid is really weak, it might be very hard for her to do that. So you may see in between the leaf joints a root starting and it's just kind of hanging out there. If she's got a couple of leaves, it might be beneficial to sacrifice that one leaf so that the root can come out because she might not have enough strength to push them out. I did that with this orchid actually back here. As you can see, lots and lots of leaves. And the roots were starting to turn woody and not really benefit the plant anymore. And so I took off a few of the lower leaves and look at that. The roots went crazy and went down into the water. So sometimes if a plant has quite a few leaves, it's beneficial to just sacrifice a few of the lower leaves so that those roots don't have to struggle to come through the leaf so that they can get the nutrients. And as you can see, this orchid is also in spike. So I'm just going to go through and show you a couple of my orchids that are in spike, my Phalaenopsis. So I showed you this one. I'm very excited about these blooms. Like I said, this is my favorite orchid bloom, and I haven't seen it in 3 years. So very excited to see that. This orchid, she's putting out roots. She's another one that doesn't have a great root system, but as you can see, she is starting to put out roots there, and her spike is starting to branch. So you can see right there, she's got a little branch coming, so that's going to be nice. This orchid, she also suffered from a little bit of a root loss problem a couple of months ago. These leaves were not as healthy and fleshy, but she has regenerated some roots, as you can see, and she's also going to be spiking. So she's got a secondary branch right here, and then at the top, she's got another one. So she's also going to bloom for me again. Sorry, I know this is going blurry for you. That's really annoying. This is another orchid that she's bloomed for me before. She bloomed last year for me. She's one of my few orchids, my Phalaenopsis, that actually have a tag. And her flowers are really, really pretty. They're like a really vibrant purpley pink, and they smell like lemon. So I really enjoy this particular orchid. My little chicks, her spikes are progressing. So she has one right here, and she has another one behind this leaf. So she's gonna get 2 spikes for me. This also, I just showed you, she's spiking. Diana's spiking. So this is the orchid that my sister-in-law gave me. So she's got a spike going. And then this one is named after my niece. This one is named after Aubrey. And her little node right here, you can see it's starting to branch. So she's gonna give me some flowers again too. So yeah, so my Phalaenopsis are doing pretty good. I should be getting a fair amount of spikes early this spring. Hopefully I'll get more as the spring and summer progresses. But I just wanted to let you guys know, when you see an orchid in this condition, don't be quick to throw it out. I mean, if you don't have the time, you know, to care for it properly and you just want to get another one, or, you know, if there are things going on in your life, don't feel bad if you can't care for it. But if you really want to save the orchid, if you love the flowers, or, you know, you do have the time to try to do a rescue mission, when an orchid does this, don't panic. This is actually a good sign. this means that she is going to get new roots very, very soon. So just be patient, hang in there, and before you know it, she's going to be just like these other ones and bounce back. So if you have any more questions about how to rescue a Phalaenopsis orchid, I do have several videos about rescuing orchids on my channel. If you have additional questions that are not covered in any of those videos that you'd like me to cover, you can certainly comment, and I'll see if I can make a video on that as the spring progresses. I hope you're all doing great, and I will talk to you all next time.